So with 4.2 second half being just a few days away, today I'm here with 2 of the 3 characters for a should you or should you not summon video, being Tribbie and Feixiao. We're going to be going over their spot in meta over the time of the release, how they're holding up, and then reasons why you should or should not summon for both. If you're wondering why Sunday is not included in this video, it's because I'm going to be doing a separate dedicated video because there is something specific I want to talk about and I feel like I can dedicate a whole video to him. And if I were to squeeze that into this, it would be a lot more cited on Sunday's duration, so instead I'm just going to make a video. It will release probably a day after this one. It will also be updated in the pinned comment, so if you're looking for Sunday specifically, just stay tuned, it will be here soon.
Stuck grinding in Honkai Star Rail? Need stellar jades fast? We've got you covered. Head over to U7 Buy, your ultimate gaming hub for save fast and cheap in-game top-ups. Whether it's Star Rail or your other favorite games, U7 delivers instantly and players love it. Check out their Trustpilot reviews, they're actually top ranked. On the Honkai Star Rail direct top-up page, you can recharge your account in seconds. For example, 8080 Ononeric shards cost $99.99 in the official store. However, on U7 Buy, you can see the price is cheaper. When you head over to U7 Buy, you might notice that the storefront display prices currently match the in-game store, but don't worry, the magic happens at checkout. Once you click the buy now button, your total instantly drops to our actual discounted price only. Just pick your server, enter UID, pay securely, and boom, your account is instantly loaded. Want extra savings? Use code PRETSR at checkout for 5% off, perfect for last minute pulls, battle passes, or surprising a friend. And here's a bonus. If you spend $80 a month on U7 Buy, you can grab the Honkai Star Rail Express Pass for only 1 cent, which is nearly free. Click on the link in my description, recharge fast, save more, and keep blazing those trails. So let's first talk about Tribbie. So Tribbie was released as her Harmony role. She has been a support / sub DPS for all this time, and she is actually held up really damn well because she's had so many good buffs in her actual kit. Basic 30% vulnerability and also additional damage in her ultimate when you did activate it. Skill alone just giving 24% ult rest pen, which is actually really damn good, and also being able to launch a follow-up attack when other characters activate their ultimate. Just at E0, she actually performed well for a while. Nowadays it's a bit different, but she released all the way back in 3.1 and has actually been in almost like every single new team if you really were able to, just because her buffs work everywhere. The additional damage was just free damage adding up. The extra damage she was able to add up throughout the battle, if she was getting some form of anyone else's buffs, it was actually able to add up to a lot. Another thing about her just at E0 is you were able to just put dance on her, which is one of the best light cone, if not the best light cone in the game, because there's so many setups you can do out of it. And since she was able to gain energy by allies attacking, the more enemies they hit, the more energy she can get. You had ways to just put the light cone on her, and then you had this good character that can use dance very frequently, or even do an eagle setup, which was albeit a little harder to use and was also way harder to build, but it was possible. So she was also being able to be used as like a glorified somewhat action advancer. Of course, not a full turn, but you're able to get more consistent D2D procs with that eagle setup. So she had her while on a lot of teams. You used her on the Remembrance team for the longest time, but she was kicked out because of Cyrene being better overall, especially if you didn't have E1 Tribbie, which we'll get into the value in just a second. And so the biggest team that she was kind of always on was like the Herda's team, but the Herda as a unit also has generally fallen off. So like her actual best team wasn't really there anymore. She was more of a slot in because a lot of teams had their best in slot stuff, but it also didn't help. A lot of air teams that used her also ended up just getting Cyrene in that spot instead. While you were able to use them simultaneously, usually it would be in the form of a sustain the slot, so that actually ended up being dependent on what you were running. So like Anoxa teams, once Cyrene came out, it was Ceredra, Cyrene, and then your sustain if you were running that, mainly downhang. The only one that effectively did still run Tribbie was like Maide's team if you're doing that, even with Cyrene, because the team is Cyrene, Hyacine, Maide, and also Tribbie, because Tribbie's one of the characters that can give him really good buffs still. But yeah, now we get to the E1. So a lot of her value was locked behind this E1, not as much previously, just because she was so valuable just at E0, and especially if she had that dance stuff, and especially if she had the dance setups. But her E1 enables true damage, which in general is just insanely broken. This is still by far the most broken E1 in the game, because there's just not many true damage sources. The only one that can actually give true damage to others is RMC buff, Tribbie E1, and then Cyrene skill. By skill, I mean Cyrene zone. So now we fast forward to like 4.x era. Tribbie is still a good slot in even at E0, especially with dance setups, but she is a lot more replaceable. Before, she kind of just was everywhere because she was just that good, but now like when you really look at it, it's not like a super valuable character to just slot in. The main slots that she actually is in is like previous air teams where she was still first lead just on, so like Maide even with Cyrene. Now she's more of just like a slot
Sodden and you really do want that E1 to get full value, otherwise she is relatively replaceable. Unless you're specifically doing dance to dance setups, then she still has her value a lot more than others. Her damage overall is especially not too great unless you do have E1 plus maybe some other form of buffing to her. Before it added up to a lot, but now with enemies getting a lot more HP because she's been released over a year ago, it's a bit less effective just because they have more HP, so that little bit of damage she added onto is becoming less and less and less. But if you do have her E1, her value still really just remains it. You can really just put her on any team. Like the only teams you don't want to put her on are the ones that are set in stone, so mainly something like Break. You can honestly put her in as like a sustainless dodge slot if you really want. It's not the best, but it still works. She can also be a sustainless slot in something like a Silver Wolf team or even the upcoming character Evanescia. You still can use her as a sustainless slot there. For the air teams that are all still relevant, you can still very much use her there. So even though her value at E0 has diminished, she still just has value to have because she's just a good unit for people to use. And then if you especially have her E1, then her value is still just as good. Now we move over to Feixiao. So Feixiao was released in 2.5. She was the premier follow-up DPS, and she had her spot for a while and still can be used, especially with the resurgence of follow-up characters like Asheville and the upcoming character Mortanix Blade, but mainly just Asheville for now because he's the one finalized in game. Feixiao was also a very big skill expression character, so the better you were as a player, the better she was value-wise. She was able to use something like Eagle super well because she ulted a lot, but in a more general standpoint, from then to now, Feixiao is a lot less usable just because she is an old DPS now. And without the help of a Nova player, there isn't much you can do unless you got a unit that was as cracked as like the Dahlia was for Firefly, because even if Firefly didn't get the Nova Flare, she was just doing really good because the Dahlia is just that good. Unfortunately, Asheville is not as good as a Reviver as the Dahlia. While Asheville does actually very much help Feixiao to be at a clearable level, even outside of like super high Eagle setup stuff, Feixiao unfortunately does kind of hold him back as his hyper carry teams are just better. And a bit of a spoiler with the upcoming character Mortanix Blade, if this does hold up, while the team still can work around those two, Feixiao really just holds the team back. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. Asheville himself is just better ran as a hyper carry because he is just stronger. With the release of Mortanix Blade, you're better off running those two cores with the support and the sustain on their own. Feixiao on the team is mostly just dead weight. At a super low cost follow-up team with like Eagle setups all around and maybe even like a Mo sustainless setup, it's very much possible and she's kind of needed for that. And she can do a lot for that specific setup, but that's not really something that many people are using. So I'm not really looking at her as like a super min-max clear. If you're like a super min-max clear, she really still does have value because there's so much stuff you can do at low cost with Eagle, especially with how much she ults. But in most cases, if you were to pull Asheville for her, while yes, it puts her to a good clearable level at even a casual level, generally she just holds Asheville back. While she does have good frequency to charge ultimate for Asheville, she's not really providing him anything when it comes to buffs, and Asheville's damage is higher. He's able to do a lot of stuff, so you're better off with running him with an action advancer such as Sunday, Sparkle, or also RMC. One of my favorite setups is Sparkle plus RMC, and then last slot could go to sustain, or if you're doing sustainless, you can actually, funny enough, use someone like Tribbie in that slot. So yeah, while the quote-unquote current new follow-up team being Feixiao, Asheville, Tribbie, and then a sustain of either Daneng or Venturing, while very much clearable, it's just Feixiao kind of holds Asheville back. That's just kind of how it is until she does get a Nova Flare. It's kind of just going to be that case over and over again. The more buffs to follow up, it's seeming like that 4.x is going to create an entirely new follow-up team. So once we get that next follow-up character that's going to seeming to be the main DPS, so like the one that's actually going to take Feixiao's role, she just holds the actual other units back because the sub DPSs do more damage than her now. So yeah, just unfortunately, Feixiao doesn't have too much value. Even if you do have E2, she is good. Like E2 Feixiao still to this day is very much clearable. Like even at E0, you can very much clear with her. Just takes a lot of managing and also just being good. E2 makes her actually clearable even without Asheville still. It does require a lot more skill without Asheville. And then with Asheville, it's better, but still, even in that case, it's better to just run Asheville on his own, and that's going to be continued to be the case again until she does end up getting that Nova Flare, which, you know, might not be for a long time. Game is very random when it comes to Nova Flare, so we would just have to hope and pray. Now, reasons why you should or should not summon for Tribbie. Generally, even though her value at E0 S0 isn't super high, and the upcoming character Blade potentially might have more, Tribbie is not really a character I can ever not recommend pulling just to have on your account, because she's just a good Sodden. Like again, you can put Dance to Stance on her and have like a borderline budget action advancer. Her buffs work with really every team. Like on a lot of teams, she might be like a downgraded E0 S0 if you have them complete. In that specific case, if you already have like multiple other teams like Break, Finance Team, Remembrance, all that stuff, you have a bunch bunch of teams finalized and they're clearing endgame for you, in that case, I wouldn't recommend it. But in general, Tribbie is just a good character to have on your account in a time where you just need a slot in, but she just does that. She's just a really good slot in. She can really go anywhere. And then if you're also able to pick up her E1, so even just E1 S0, that's like the main thing for most people that have Tribbie. Her light cone is really underrated in my opinion, but even just E1 S0 Tribbie, like that is just such a broken unit still. So just having her puts you closer to that E1. If you're able to justify getting the E1, then you have this really, really good slot in character. But yeah, even at E0 S0, she's just a general character I recommend. The only time I don't recommend anyone pulling her is, as I mentioned previously, you already have a bunch of set in stone teams. So yeah, the full Remembrance team with Cyrene setup, so you don't need to put Tribbie there. Maybe you also have a full Finon team ready that's doing completely fine. Like you have Finon, Sabidra, Noble Flitter, Sparkle. Last slot could be even someone just like RMC. And or maybe you also have the new Elation teams. Like you have the full Elation flagship. You're maybe going to pull Evanescia as a DPS as well. If you already have just a bunch of teams, mainly just being 3 or even more, and they're fully complete and you don't have Tribbie, in that case, you don't really have a need to pull her. But for anyone that's not in that case, Tribbie is just a character I can generally recommend still, especially if you're someone that's struggling to have a spot. Maybe you have a bunch of supports being bounced around and you can't really get full teams going because a lot of characters need set support. Tribbie is just a good spot to help you with that even at E0. And then, as I mentioned, if you get E1, much better. Now for Feixiao. Feixiao in general is a character I just do not recommend pulling. She's had her time, and unless you're a crazy min-maxer, and for crazy min-maxers, there's better characters to do stuff like that now, like a Noxa or even Asheville himself. He can do some crazy stuff. She's just generally not a character I would ever recommend pulling as a DPS to build around, even if you do have the team, because like let's say you do have Asheville. For Feixiao specifically, you're just gonna run hybrid carry Asheville anyways. Once Blade comes out, you have a better partner for Asheville, so even more less need for a Feixiao. The only case would be if you really like Feixiao and you really just want to pull her for that reason, which in that case you probably wouldn't be watching this video. You want more of a educated opinion, and in that case I just do not recommend pulling her. She is an outdated DPS in all things considered. You might see some crazy stuff, but the question if you can mimic that is entirely player dependent, and with those pulls and effort you can very much put into a different character that's even from the 3.x era, or especially the ones upcoming in the 4.x era, to do just as good with probably less cost and better performance and more consistent performance with less RNG, because a lot of these crazy runs also rely on RNG. So yeah, Feixiao, unfortunately, as much as I love this character and I love her playstyle and I think she's really fun, she's just generally not worth it. So until she really gets that Nova Flare, I'm not going to recommend anyone to pull this character unless you really like her. And that is the full should you summon for Tribbie and Feixiao. Again, a Sunday one will be coming out in roughly a day as I'm uploading this, and I'll also have an Evanescia one roughly around 2 days, so like a day-ish before her banner. So for either of those two, just stay tuned. But I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, drop a like, we greatly appreciate it. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all the tips and style content. I'll see you later. Peace out.